Welcome, come in. Okay, so we're here to discuss the life and works of the Vilna Gaon, the Gaon of Vilna. The Gaon of Vilna lived what was in those days a pretty long life. He was 77 years old when he passed away. He was born in 1720 and he passed away in 1797. He was around 77 years old and 5 months or thereabouts when he passed away. He was born, maybe 7 months? He was born
at a young age.
On the first day of Pesach, at a young age, rather young age. And he passed away on the third day, Chol HaMoed Sukkot, in 1797, in Vilna. He's commonly referred to as Hagra. What does Hagra mean?
The Gra.
Hagra, the Gra. What does the Gra mean? It's an acronym for Hagaon Rabbi Eliyahu. It's an acronym for Hagaon means the genius, Rabbi Eliyahu. Gaon was a term that was used for a genius, especially for a person who was tremendously knowledgeable in Torah. It's very interesting that it's brought down in certain books that at the time they started calling other great scholars Gaon. So to differentiate the Vilna Gaon, who was exceedingly brilliant, they called him either Hagon HaEmet, the true Gaon, or they also often called him, interestingly enough, Hagaon HaChasid, which kind of means the righteous Gaon, Hagaon HaChasid, which kind of means the righteous Gaon, which is also an interesting term because he had some interesting encounters with the Hasidic movement, which we will discuss a little bit later, So that's the Hagra, the Gra, which is in Hebrew, Gimel, Reish, Aleph, is Gaon, genius, Rabbeinu, our teacher, Eliyahu, the Aleph stands for Eliyahu. So he's often referred to as the Gra. That's why his commentary on Shulchan Aruch is called Biur HaGra. The explanation, the notes of the Gra, of the Vilna Gaon. Now, let's go through for a moment his family background. He was born in Salt, which was close to Brisk. So he was born in a place close to Brisk. I'll show you a little bit more or less where it is. And then later
White
on
Russia.
in life,
White Russia.
White Russia, exactly.
Belarus.
That's right. He was in Belarus, right, which is south of Lithuania. His family later, when he was a young boy, they moved a little bit north. We'll see on a map just now to Vilna. He moved a little bit later to Vilna. Now, his father it's very important to understand his family background, and his life is actually very different in many ways to many of the other scholars that we discussed. Somewhat less tumultuous in certain perspectives, although he did have some difficult times as well, which I'll explain. His father's name was Shlomo Zalman, and he was one of the prominent rabbis in Vilna. So his father, he had a good start. His father was a very prominent rabbi, one of the most prominent rabbis in Vilna of the time. Not only that, but he had great ancestry going down to the Bar-Chaim. The Bar-Chaim is a commentary on Shulchan Aruch. And this commentary is a very interesting commentary, the Bar-Chaim. What it does is it takes all the comments on Shulchan Aruch, basically, and all the notes on Shulchan Aruch, and it shows where did Rabbi Yosef Karo get this information from? Did he source it in the Talmud? Did he source it in the Rambam? Where did he source everything that's coded in the Jewish Code of Law? The Shulchan Aruch is the Jewish Code of Law. And everything that was coded there, he sourced. Now, this was before computers. He couldn't just, put in the quote in his computer like I sometimes do, and it will spew out wherever that source was. There was no computer. He knew where that source was. Every single line in the Code of Jewish Law, he sourced it, whether it was in either a explicit law in a Mishnah, in the Talmud, in a Breita, in a Gemara, who said it, or etc., etc. So he was in and of himself a tremendous genius. Tremendous genius was the Gaon of Vilna. Now, his brothers were also great scholars. Now, it's very important, and I just want everyone to understand this. Sometimes, for example, depends where you are. Like it says, Noah was a very righteous individual in his generation. So the sages say, if Noah would have lived in Abraham's generation, compared to Abraham, he wouldn't have been considered so righteous. So everything's relative. So in a similar fashion, one could say that the Vilna Gaon was recognized as a great genius in his time because everyone else was not so. There weren't many great scholars around, but that's not the case. First of all, he came from a lineage of great scholars. His brothers were tremendous scholars, and more than that, and this is important, he lived in Vilna. Now this is very significant. Vilna in those days and later was considered the center of Torah. It was considered like the Jerusalem of Lithuania, it was referred to as at times. The Jerusalem of Lithuania. It was considered the peak of Torah scholarship, of Torah learning. It was considered a tremendously a great Torah city. The greatest Torah city in all of Lithuania.